The call came in at 7:12 a.m., Laura Mercer's voice cracking through the static as she begged for someone to come quickly. By the time the first patrol car slid to a stop in front of the Mercer home, frost clung to the edges of the driveway, and the world felt too quiet for the kind of panic echoing inside. Officer Hensley pushed through the front door Laura had left open, his boots hitting the hardwood with sharp, echoing taps. "Before we dive deeper, tell us where you're watching from. It helps us know how far these stories reach." Laura stood at the end of the hallway, barefoot, her robe hanging off one shoulder. Her hands shook violently, but her breathing was strangely steady, almost controlled. "He's in there," she whispered, stepping aside and pointing toward the bathroom. "Please, he won't wake up." Hensley moved past her, the copper smell thickening with each step. When he reached the bathroom doorway, he froze. Daniel Mercer lay on the cold tiles, his upper body slumped against the tub. A towel, pressed tightly between his legs, had turned nearly black with blood. His lips were pale, barely moving, his breaths thin and broken. "Ma'am, what happened?" Hensley called out, kneeling beside Daniel and checking for a pulse. "I don't know," Laura said from behind him, her voice rising, but her eyes disturbingly steady. "He wasn't up yet. I knocked, and when he didn't answer, I found him like this." Her fingers curled into her robe as if gripping something only she could feel. Daniel let out a weak, rattling groan. Hensley pressed the towel harder, trying to stall the bleeding. "Stay with me, Mr. Mercer. Don't close your eyes." Daniel blinked once, barely a reaction, then went still again. Paramedics rushed in seconds later, sliding equipment around the cramped room. One of them gently pushed Laura aside as they worked. "Did he say anything? Anything at all?" the medic asked. "No," she answered quickly. "No, he was like that when I woke up." Her gaze flickered for a moment, not toward Daniel, but toward the laundry basket shoved against the corner. Then she snapped her eyes back to the floor. Hensley noticed. As paramedics lifted Daniel onto the stretcher, Laura reached for his hand. Her fingers barely grazed his skin before she pulled away as if burned. "Please save him," she murmured, though the tremor in her voice didn't reach her eyes. Outside, the ambulance doors slammed shut. Snowflakes drifted across Daniel's pale face before the vehicle sped toward the hospital. Laura stood on the porch, arms wrapped tightly around herself, watching the flashing lights disappear. "Mrs. Mercer," Hensley said quietly, "we'll need a statement. Every detail." She nodded slowly. "I'll tell you whatever I can." But as she turned toward him, her expression shifted, just for a second. The panic melted, revealing something colder, sharper, as if she already knew exactly what would come next. And that was the moment Hensley realized the real story wasn't in the blood on the tiles, but in the things Laura wasn't saying. Laura sat in the small interview room at the hospital, her fingers laced so tightly her knuckles whitened. The heater hummed in the corner, but her shoulders remained stiff, as if she were bracing for something only she could see. Detective Ruiz stepped inside, carrying a notepad and a quiet, assessing stare. "We appreciate your cooperation," he said, taking the seat across from her. "We just need to understand the timeline." Laura nodded, eyes fixed on the table. "I woke up around 6. Daniel usually gets up before me, but he wasn't in bed. I called his name. No answer. I went to the bathroom and I found him." Ruiz tilted his head slightly. "Did you hear anything during the night? A fall? A shout?" "No," she replied quickly. "Nothing." Her voice quivered, but her face remained rigid, controlled. Ruiz noticed the mismatch. People in shock often drifted between confusion and fear. Laura, however, seemed to be holding something tightly behind her ribs. "When was the last time you and Daniel spoke?" he asked. "Last night," she murmured. "Before bed. He was tired. Work has been stressful." Ruiz glanced down at his notes. "Any recent arguments?" Laura hesitated. Her jaw shifted, the smallest flicker of tension. "Just normal marriage things, but nothing like this." Through the small window of the room, she could see the corridor leading to the ICU. Nurses moved briskly, voices carrying fragments of urgency. Every time someone walked by, Laura's eyes darted toward them, as if expecting to hear Daniel's name. Ruiz leaned forward. "Mrs. Mercer, I have to ask something difficult. The paramedic said the injury was extremely precise. It didn't look accidental." Her breath caught. "Are you saying someone did this to him?" "We're exploring all possibilities," Ruiz said gently. She pressed her hand to her mouth, trembling. "Detective, I loved my husband. I would never... I found him like that. You have to believe me." Ruiz studied her for a long moment. "We're not accusing you. We're trying to figure out what happened." Laura's gaze dropped to the floor. "Daniel has been distant lately, coming home late, not answering his phone sometimes. I asked him about it, but he said it was work." "Did you believe him?" Ruiz asked. Her lips parted, but no sound came. The silence answered for her. After a pause, Ruiz stood. "We'll follow up soon. You should rest." But she didn't move. She stayed rigid, her thoughts spiraling somewhere far beyond the room. When Ruiz reached the door, she finally whispered, "Detective, will he wake up?" Ruiz looked at her carefully. "We hope so." Laura lowered her head, but behind the curtain of her hair, her expression shifted. Fear tightening into suspicion, suspicion hardening into something darker. Because if Daniel woke up, he would tell them everything. Detective Ruiz scrolled through Daniel Mercer's phone for the third time, each swipe peeling back a layer of the life Laura hadn't mentioned. The messages grew bolder the further he went. Late-night emojis, half-written promises, desperate apologies, and photos no married man should be receiving. Ruiz exhaled slowly, tapping the most recent thread. A name sat at the top of the screen. Hannah. He turned the phone toward Detective Parker. "We found our missing piece." Parker raised a brow. "Or the piece someone wanted to cut off." They drove to the small apartment building on West Roscoe, the kind with rusted mailboxes and a broken elevator that never reached the second floor. When they knocked on 2B, footsteps approached hesitantly. The door opened just enough for one blue eye to appear. "Hannah Lewis?" Ruiz asked. The door froze. Then it swung wider, revealing a young woman no older than 23. Her hair was pulled into a messy knot. Her sweatshirt hung loosely, as if she had been hiding inside it for days. What happened to Daniel?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "We need to speak inside," Parker replied. Hannah stepped back, clutching her phone. The small living room smelled faintly of vanilla candles, and something withered beneath it. Fear left unspoken too long. She sat on the edge of her couch, as if preparing to run. "Miss Lewis," Ruiz began, "how long have you known Daniel Mercer?" Her eyes flinched. "Almost a year." "Was he having an affair with you?" She nodded, tears gathering too quickly, sliding down before she could stop them. "He said he was unhappy. He said he loved me. He said he was leaving her." Ruiz exchanged a glance with Parker. "Did he ever mention problems at home?" "Yes." Her fingers tightened around her sleeves. "He said Laura was unpredictable. controlling, that she'd follow him sometimes. Parker leaned forward. Did she ever contact you directly? A tremor ran up Hannah's spine. She swallowed hard. 2 weeks ago, I got a message from an unknown number. Just one line. You'll pay for this. I tried to ignore it, but I swear it felt like someone was watching my building that night. Ruiz's jaw tightened. Why didn't you report it? Because he told me not to, she said softly. Daniel said it would only make things worse. Hannah wiped her eyes, staring at the detectives like someone clinging to the last people who might believe her. Did Laura do this to him? We're still investigating, Ruiz answered carefully. But the injury was deliberate. Very deliberate. Hannah's breath hitched. Detective, you didn't answer my question earlier. Is he alive? He is, Parker said, but he's critical. The room fell silent, except for Hannah's quiet, uneven breaths. She looked down, gripping the blanket on her lap. He told me he was planning to tell her everything this week. He said he couldn't keep lying. Ruiz closed his notebook. Miss Lewis, if there's anything else you're hiding, now is the time. Her shoulders trembled. There is one more thing, she whispered, but I think someone else already knows. Ruiz stiffened. Who? Hannah lifted her phone, showing a new notification. An unmarked message. One sentence. Check your doorstep. Hannah stared at the message on her phone, her chest tightening as if someone had pressed cold fingers around her ribs. Ruiz and Parker exchanged a look, silent, tense, before Parker nodded toward the door. Stay behind us, Ruiz said. Hannah followed, her footsteps shaky, barely brushing the floor. The hallway outside was dim, lit only by a single flickering bulb that buzzed overhead. Ruiz scanned both ends of the corridor before crouching near Hannah's door. A small box sat neatly against the frame, no bigger than a shoebox, its edges sharp, its tape perfectly aligned. Did you order anything? Parker asked. Hannah shook her head violently. No, I didn't order anything. Ruiz slid on gloves. Back up. This could be anything. Hannah pressed herself against the wall, covering her mouth. Ruiz picked up the box, turning it slightly. No label, no handwriting, nothing to show who sent it. He set it on the floor and carefully cut the tape. The lid lifted with a soft crack. Hannah's scream tore through the hallway before Ruiz even processed what he was seeing. He slammed the lid shut instinctively, but it was too late. Hannah had already collapsed to her knees, shaking uncontrollably. No, 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 oh my God, no, she sobbed, pushing herself backward across the floor. Parker knelt beside her, gripping her arms firmly. Hannah, don't look. Don't look again. But Hannah couldn't tear her eyes from the closed box, as if its presence alone hollowed the air around her. Ruiz swallowed hard, forcing himself to lift the lid again. The object inside was wrapped tightly in medical gauze, pink, soaked at the center. The shape left no ambiguity. Someone had sent her Daniel Mercer's severed manhood. Ruiz closed the box carefully, jaw clenched. Parker whispered, "This wasn't just an assault. Someone wanted to send a message." Hannah pressed her forehead to the wall, tears streaming. "She did this," she choked out. "Laura, she warned me. She warned me." Ruiz stepped closer. "We're not jumping to conclusions. But Hannah, did anyone else know about you and Daniel?" "No," she cried. "Only him. Only her. Nobody else even knew I existed." Ruiz exchanged a heavy look with Parker. The precision of the injury, Laura's shaky but strangely steady demeanor. The message Hannah received 2 weeks earlier, and now this box. A pattern was forming, one that didn't lean toward coincidence. "We need to get this to the lab immediately," Ruiz said. "No one touches it again." Hannah looked up, her face streaked with fear. "Detective, what if she comes here? What if she's watching me right now?" Parker helped her to her feet. "We're assigning protection until we sort this out." Ruiz picked up the box, holding it carefully. "Hannah, someone wanted you to see this. They wanted your reaction. They wanted control." Hannah gripped her stomach, fighting a wave of nausea. Why would she do this? Ruiz paused at the doorway, the box under his arm, the truth circling dangerously close. "Because whoever sent this," he said quietly, "wanted to end whatever Daniel started." But even he couldn't shake the feeling they were missing a piece, one that might change everything. Detective Ruiz knocked on the door of the house next to the Mercers. An older woman, Mrs. Gallagher, answered with a trembling hand wrapped around a mug of tea. Her eyes flicked between Ruiz and Parker, wary, heavy with the weight of something she'd been holding in. "Ma'am," Ruiz said gently, "we're following up on any noises you might have heard early yesterday morning. Anything unusual could help us." She opened the door wider. "Come in. I haven't slept since I heard the sirens." Inside, the living room was dim. A clock ticked too loudly on the wall. She sat, exhaling deeply. "It started around 4. I wasn't sleeping well. My arthritis was acting up. Then I heard shouting." "Who was shouting?" Parker asked. "The wife," Mrs. Gallagher said, without hesitation. "Laura. Her voice carries when she's upset. I couldn't make out every word, but she yelled something like, 'You lied to me,' and then something about ruining her." Ruiz felt a tension rise in the room. "Did you hear Daniel?" Mrs. Gallagher nodded. "Quieter, almost pleading, like he was trying to calm her down. Then there was a loud thump, something heavy hitting the floor." Ruiz exchanged a subtle look with Parker. "And after the thump?" "Silence," she whispered. "A terrible kind of silence. Then a cry. Not loud, just broken." Parker leaned forward. "How long before you heard anything else?" "Maybe 10 minutes. Then the bathroom light flipped on. I saw it through the window, but no more shouting." She hesitated. "Detective, I've lived next to them for 6 years. They fought before, but never like that." Ruiz closed his notebook. "Thank you, Mrs. Gallagher. What you told us is important." She gripped her mug tighter. "Detective, someone was at their house the night before. I heard a car door, a woman's voice, not Laura's." Ruiz froze mid-step. "You're sure?" "Positive," she said. "You learn people's voices when you live this close." When they stepped back outside, the cold air hit sharp and fast. "Another woman?" Parker murmured. "Could have been Hannah." "No," Ruiz said slowly. "Hannah said she hadn't seen Daniel for 2 days, and her reaction to the package wasn't faked." "So who was the woman at the house?" Parker asked. Ruiz stared at the Mercer home, the curtains drawn tight as if guarding something inside. "Someone we haven't met yet." They walked toward the car, their breath forming clouds in the frozen air. The story Laura gave them was unraveling quickly, too quickly. Someone else had been part of that night, someone neither Laura nor Daniel had mentioned. And whoever she was, she might be the key to everything. Daniel Mercer drifted in and out of consciousness, the steady rhythm of the ICU monitors keeping him tethered to the world. His skin looked grey beneath the harsh hospital lights, and every small movement tightened his jaw in pain. Detective Ruiz stood at the foot of the bed, Parker beside him, both waiting for the moment the doctor had warned would be brief. "Mr. Mercer," Ruiz said softly, "we need to ask you a few questions, if you're able." Daniel's eyelids fluttered. His voice came out thin and cracked. "Laura, is she here?" "No," Parker answered. "She's at home. You're safe right now." A tremor passed through Daniel's fingers. "Safe," he repeated, as if trying to convince himself. Ruiz stepped closer. "Daniel, we need you to tell us what happened in that bathroom." Daniel stared at the ceiling, breath shallow. A long moment passed. When he finally spoke, the words crawled out slowly. I remember her shouting. She woke up before me. I heard her crying in the hallway. When I opened the door, she was staring at my phone." Ruiz felt a pulse of tension. "Your phone?" "She saw the messages," Daniel whispered. "The ones with Hannah. She asked if I loved her. I said I didn't know anymore." His throat tightened, as if the air itself hurt. "Laura grabbed me. She said I'd ruined everything. She was shaking. I tried to calm her down, but she pushed past me. I heard something fall, maybe the drawer. Then she came at me. I don't remember all of it. Just her screaming. Something cold. I tried to move away. Then the pain hit." He squeezed his eyes shut, fighting the memory. "It wasn't an accident. She meant to hurt me." Ruiz and Parker exchanged a silent glance. "Daniel," Ruiz said gently, "do you remember anyone else being in the house? Anyone besides Laura?" Daniel opened his eyes, confusion clouding them. "What? No, just her." "A neighbor reported hearing another woman's voice the night before," Parker said. "Someone who wasn't Laura." Daniel shook his head weakly. "No, I swear, no one else was there. Laura barely let me leave her sight, let alone invite someone in." Ruiz studied him carefully. "Did Laura ever mention anyone following you? Anyone she suspected?" Daniel hesitated, then nodded faintly. "She thought someone was watching us. A few months ago, she said a woman kept calling, hanging up, leaving voicemails with no words. I never heard them. She deleted them before I could." Parker frowned. "Did you believe her?" "I thought she was jealous," Daniel whispered, "or imagining things. But now, I don't know." His breathing quickened, panic rising like a tide. "Detective, she's going to come here. She's going to finish what she started." "No one is getting near you," Ruiz said firmly. "You're under police protection." Daniel tried to speak again, but his voice cracked. "You don't understand. Laura doesn't stop when she breaks." Ruiz leaned closer. "What does that mean?" Daniel's eyes filled with something raw, fear mixed with certainty. "If she thinks I betrayed her, she'll destroy everyone involved." His voice dropped to a fragile whisper. "Including Hannah." The courtroom was packed long before the hearing began. Reporters crowded the hallway, cameras flashing with every shift of the heavy wooden doors. Inside, Laura Mercer sat beside her defense attorney, hands folded neatly, posture perfect, expression carved from ice. She looked more like a woman preparing for a business meeting than a trial for mutilating her husband. Across the aisle, Hannah Lewis sat between two victim advocates, her shoulders trembling every few minutes despite the steady grip they kept on her arms. She avoided looking at Laura entirely. Daniel, still fragile, sat in a wheelchair near the front. The blanket draped across his lap looked too small to hide everything taken from him. The judge entered. The room stiffened. "This court will come to order." The prosecution began with the evidence. Bloody towels, Daniel's medical reports, the packaged remains delivered to Hannah's door. Photos projected onto the screen made the jury recoil. Hannah closed her eyes. Laura didn't flinch. "Mrs. Mercer," the prosecutor said, rising, "committed an act of deliberate violence. She confronted her husband about his affair, attacked him, and then mailed what she removed to the woman she blamed." Laura's attorney shot up. "Objection. There is zero DNA evidence proving she mailed anything." "There was no DNA because the sender wiped the package clean," the prosecutor countered. "But the timeline, motive, and eyewitness accounts are overwhelming." The judge allowed the statement. Then Daniel was brought forward. Ruiz pushed his wheelchair, staying close. Daniel gripped the armrests, trying to steady the tremor in his hands. "Mr. Mercer," the prosecutor began, "in your own words, what did Laura do that morning?" Daniel swallowed, eyes fixed on the floor. "She screamed at me. She said I ruined her life. I tried to calm her down, but she didn't listen." "And then?" Daniel hesitated. His voice dropped. "I felt something cold, then pain. I blacked out." When asked if he believed Laura meant to kill him, Daniel nodded slowly. "She didn't want me dead. She wanted me to suffer." A murmur rippled through the audience. Laura's attorney approached with quiet, piercing precision. "Mr. Mercer, you admitted to an affair. You lied to your wife for nearly a year. Do you think your betrayal may have caused emotional desperation, perhaps even self-harm on your part?" Daniel's head shot up. "No, I didn't do this to myself. She did it." The attorney pressed harder. "And the other woman your neighbor heard, who was she?" Daniel's confusion was immediate and genuine. I don't know. There was no other woman." The courtroom shifted. Even Ruiz turned, his jaw tightening. If Daniel wasn't lying, then who had been at the house? When closing statements ended, the judge took a long breath before delivering the verdict. For the charge of aggravated assault and mutilation, this court finds the defendant, Laura Mercer. Hannah squeezed her eyes shut. Daniel held his breath. Ruiz leaned forward. "Guilty." A gasp swept through the room. But Laura simply smiled, small and sharp, as if the verdict meant far less to her than something still waiting beneath the surface. Because Chicago hadn't seen the last of Laura Mercer.